Hey gamers, what's up? It's Ed Park, aka Taugrim. I am here at the Republic booth with Cory. Cory, I heard you are a live producer.
That's right, Ed.
Tell us, what does that mean? What do you do?
The live services department, we're dedicated to keeping the game up and running 24/7. So I mean, we want to keep the players in the game, the servers running steady, and the game rock solid. Well, if you pre-ordered the game, what we're going to do is give early access to those who have pre-ordered the game.
Okay.
And then, you know, we're just going to open the floodgates on the 20th and let everyone jump in and play.
Okay, so what will happen then for someone, let's say they didn't pre-order and they start playing the game, is widely available, and you get a ton of people, like, is there going to be like some sort of login queue system, like for the beginning zones, to make sure that there's not too many people running around? And
yeah, absolutely. That's stuff we're tweaking and testing now. I mean, we've been using a queue now with some of the servers, but you know, depending on the volume, we may just spin up a new server. We've learned a lot from other games. And we've learned a lot from. We've got a lot of guys on the team that have worked on several MMOs in the past. So we're taking all that experience and knowledge, and we're really focusing on giving a AAA service behind, you know, what we feel is a AAA BioWare MMO.
So how do you guys plan to balance that? You mentioned you guys might open some servers if needed the day of launch. How do you balance making sure that you can get enough people in the door when they want to play, you know, the first week of launch, versus having enough players after a couple months to, you know, have a good population?
Sure, and that's a great question, actually. And you know, sadly, there's no science behind it. It's almost an art. You know, it's really just kind of knowing when to push the buttons and when to turn the dials. And you know, like I said, we've paid a lot of attention to other MMOs launches and our own. So it's really just, we're going to kind of play it by ear, and our testing program is the way we're practicing for that.
Okay. And then as far as the types of servers that are concerned, and then the number that you guys are planning for launch, is that something that you guys have a ballpark on?
Oh, we absolutely have a ballpark on all that stuff.
Okay. Is that something that you're able to disclose?
We absolutely are not talking about any of that stuff.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. So as far as the live environment is concerned, I know BioWare's track record very strong in storytelling, kind of single-player RPGs, and then this is obviously, you know, Republic is a massively, you know, multiplayer online environment. So what have you guys had to do as a company to kind of adjust to a different, you know, like your live server environment? It's a very different environment from some of the previous games you guys have done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I mean, for us it was really, we felt that MMOs were really covering the three pillars that existed of progression, exploration, combat. What we felt was missing was story, and you know, we thought, especially between BioWare, LucasArts, LucasFilm, we could bring that storytelling aspect to the MMO genre in a really positive, great way. And you know, there were challenges behind telling stories with a massively multiplayer environment. But you know, we were really innovative in some things like our multiplayer dialogue, multiplayer conversation systems. So now when you're grouped with your friends and you're playing, you can all go into the same conversations. You'll see each other's characters interacting, speaking on camera, and you know, making choices that's going to impact your group members on that quest.
Okay. Well, speaking of those like cinematics and stuff, like I noticed in like a lot of the lobby zones that you have a lot of rich cinematics. Is that something that players can expect, you know, throughout the leveling process to see, or is that something more kind of just to start to kind of, you know, get you immersed in the story of the game?
No, those are things that we have peppered throughout the game. Okay. So you're gonna be enjoying those from levels 1 all the way up to max level.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. So as far as you mentioned working with LucasArts. What has been the main kind of, what has been the glue, or how did you guys go about forming a strong relationship? Because it's such a strong IP and it's very tightly managed. So what has that been like?
It's actually been an incredible relationship. One of my responsibilities is that liaison between BioWare and then LucasArts, LucasFilm. Okay. So you know, we work really closely together to make sure everything is within lore and within canon for the Star Wars galaxy, and it's been great. We had a history working with these guys on Knights of the Old Republic, the original game that BioWare did. And, you know, it's an amazing IP. You know, I've been a Star Wars fan my entire life, as have you know, all my coworkers, and so we bring a lot of passion and respect to the IP, and you know, LucasFilm is very appreciative of that, and they understand that, you know, we love their IP as much as they do. The time period we chose for the game gives us a lot of freedom. You know, we're allowed to kind of tell the stories we want to tell because it's 3,000 years prior to the movies, and a lot can happen in 3,000 years. So everything we set up, as long as we, you know, funnel it back to where they want to be at that time. Okay. Well,
that makes a lot of sense, like you said, because it's so far back in history. You have, like you said, a little more latitude as far as, you know, some. So as far as the events that happened 3,000 years ago, were those things that you guys? Was that storytelling that you guys helped to craft as part of the Republic team, or were you using some of the existing kind of like books or other narratives that were out there?
Well, it takes place 300 years after the events of the original Knights of the Old Republic, so the original BioWare game. And so we kind of used that as the foundation, but then, yeah, we just from that, started crafting the storylines and the lore around this particular time period.
Okay.
Obviously with a lot of help from LucasFilm licensing.
Can you talk at all about the World PvP Zone that you guys are setting up? Like, I'm really curious to hear, how much scalability testing you guys have done. Like, how many players can you cram into a relatively, tight area and before the performance starts to drop off noticeably?
We haven't talked a lot about Ilum. I mean, we've announced that Ilum exists.
Yeah.
That we have a World PvP. But as far as details on that, I can't really get into that much.
Okay.
As far as testing goes, we are absolutely testing, from end to end, all the nuts and bolts of the game, scalability for every possible scenario. So, it's a big undertaking, but we're very serious about delivering on that high quality mark.
Are you able to talk in the World PvP Zone? Are you guys planning? Is it going to be like objective based? Like there's like fortresses or other things that need to be taken or can be flipped or held, or are you at liberty to disclose any of those types of mechanics?
There will be some objectives in there, but other than that, I don't think we've gone into a lot of detail.
Okay. And then do you guys plan on having any kind of, and the queuing I guess wouldn't be the right word, but caps as far as number of players who can be on the World PvP Zone from either faction, try to keep it balanced?
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's stuff that we tweak in testing. So it's all about player feedback, telemetry, just looking at things where the performance marks hit, where it feels right. So it's, like I said, it's a lot of just kind of twisting the dials and turning the knobs and getting that perfect recipe.
You guys have used that word telemetry a lot. Can you kind of break that? Sounds very technical. Can you kind of break that down? What that is and how it works?
Yeah, it's basically just the data that we get back in from people playing the game. So there's lots of ways we take feedback from players. There's the forums, there's bugs that they enter, and there's just the hard numbers that come through of what people are doing when they're in the game. How many times they're opening their map, or how many people have killed this boss monster, or how long they've waited to do this or that. So we study all those numbers and we tweak things accordingly until we feel like it's hit the right flow. It's finding that sweet mix of qualitative and quantitative data. So you can't just go off the numbers, but we also can't just go off what we're hearing from the players in the forums or in testing feedback. So.
Can you talk to, as far as the testing, we saw in the presentation there was something like, I think it's like 4.8 million hours that you guys have been testing, which sounds crazy.
Since March.
Since March. Yeah, okay, just since March.
Last 6 months or so.
Over about a million hours per month, roughly.
Players have spent 4.8 million hours testing the game.
That's crazy. How much of the testing that you guys do, like kind of like automated regression stuff, versus you need players there doing stuff because it's complex enough you can't really model or automate?
It's different. Like we will do some automated testing on internal servers. External servers are all unique players. They're all real people playing the game. You're not going to encounter any bots when you're in the beta testing program that are ours. All that stuff is done on internal servers that we do to kind of pre-test things before we roll it out to the public.
Okay, so it sounds like you guys are looking hardcore telemetry, you're looking like the environment, you're getting a lot of player feedback and trying to incorporate. It sounds like you're doing all the right things, like I said, for a AAA launch. Aside from the storytelling, what's another thing you could say to someone this is clearly differentiated from the rest of the market? Like this will change your concept of what an MMO is.
Well, A, it's Star Wars, and that's huge. That's huge for a lot of people. And then, I think B is we've done a really good job of socializing the game. I mean, all the multiplayer aspects of the game are familiar yet innovative. I mean, there's some really cool stuff in there, like our multiplayer conversation system, for example, or our flashpoints, the operations. I mean, everything we've done, we've taken, something people are familiar with, and we've twisted it and put our own spin on it and made it, somewhat unique.
Of the people who've been into the beta testing, like where has their interest,
It's actually pretty even right now. I mean, maybe leaning a little heavier on the PvE side of things.
The specialization system at the Q&A panel you guys talked about right now, you can choose one specialization and you guys are trying to balance it across PvE and PvP. So what will that look like for abilities that are generally more in a PvE context? I guess, for example, tanking mechanics for tanks, they have taunts and other abilities. How will those function in PvP to make them relevant?
Well, one of the cool things we've done is, we've really hybridized our character classes, so you're not locked into being a tank just because you've chosen a certain character class. Like, you get to choose between your advanced class specialization, and then within that we're going to have 3 branches of essentially what's a skill tree where you can allocate your skill points, and depending on how you want to allocate that, you can actually pick up things that will help you in PvP or PvE.
Okay.
And, just kind of use them the way you feel like you want to. It was important to us to allow players the opportunity to live their own personal Star Wars fantasies, right? So we wanted to give them as much freedom as possible to kind of evolve their character to be be the character that they want to play.
If people decide that they put too many points in a tree or want to try something else, can they go to a trainer and kind of do the whole respec thing? Is that possible?
Respecing is an option, and then there's an in-game credit cost associated with that, of course. But yeah, you can absolutely, we don't want to punish you for making a decision that you...
I clicked on the wrong thing and clicked OK.
Yeah, exactly. You get a redo there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about the game?
It's a great game. It's a lot of fun. We spend a ton of time playing it internally. All the guys that work on it play the game a lot. We're all, huge game fans, and I think that's where a lot of the BioWare quality comes from, is the amount of time that we spend playing our own game and listening to the players. I'd say if you haven't signed up for testing, just go to the www.
We did. We signed up for testing, and we're gonna bug the people that we've met here. Just just listen to the beta, please.
Yeah, so everybody sign up. We're inviting more and more people every day.
So if people want to sign up for beta, how do they do it?
Yeah, you just come to our website, which is www.SWTOR.com, and just follow the links for how to become a tester.
Thank you so much for your time, Cory. It was great
no problem,
meeting you.
It was a pleasure.
Okay, awesome.